Hello there, welcome back to our maximum weight challenge. Today, we are going to be finishing off this quote-unquote development season. We are having some pretty harsh regulation changes thrust upon us, and so far, we're not really handling them too well, but on the other hand, the AI should be handling them even worse than we are, so hopefully that'll give us a little bit of an advantage going into next season. There was a little bit of disagreement that maybe I should have just gone for broke this season, and honestly, I might replay this season and see if that would have worked. But in our current situation, we're not really making it happen. Gasly is too far behind, but say we pick up a better driver in terms of pace stats, we could probably have kept up with Red Bull, and maybe by developing the car had a chance towards the end. But yeah, the goal for today is pretty straightforward and simple. We are just going to do our best to survive and do as much research as we possibly can before the end of the year. Let's see what we get done. If we have some surprise good performances, if we get an actual drivable car next year, let's see how this works out for us. And we are in luck as we get to the Science Center improvement event, which is going to allow us to get a couple more engineers, a couple more project capacity, and it's of course something that we are going to be approving of because we are doing research, and having a couple of extra slots to ensure that we can research everything as much as possible is definitely something that we want to take advantage of. So we're going to go ahead here, just focus on getting, as mentioned, as much research as we can done before the end of the year, but we're also fairly limited in, well, how much we can do. We still have more safety periods, of course, coming, but even with that in mind, we're still gonna probably struggle a tad to get the most out of this. But we'll see what we can do here. We'll focus mainly just getting a little bit of that cornering back, a little bit of that cooling back on the brakes here, or rather suspension. But yeah, I think we're still gonna lose out pretty heavily. But if you consider that right now every car is fairly good, even if we take a look at this, you can see now that our car has fallen down to basically back of the grid in terms of its cornering ability. We still have a great DRS, we still have decent top speed as they're not affected really by the weight, but everything else has fallen now to back of the grid standing. And while we are pretty close to Red Bull here, who is 5th, 1st, and 1st, we are over 130 points behind in high speed. That basically means that on high-speed tracks, we can't really compete. We're close to, well, over 60 points behind in medium, 30 points behind in low speed. And let's be honest, even if we develop the car, I don't see us catching up to Red Bull's numbers here. But on the flip side, Red Bull's development should be fairly extreme. So they too should be losing quite a bit of performance next year. And as we can see, the weight has gone down again to 7.6 kilos. So you could expect here, potentially, that they're going to be a little bit weaker as a result. Ferrari, on the other hand, is 15.4. They barely shed any weight, but they still have a tremendous advantage in high speed, 80 points. They have about 30 points advantage in the medium, and 0.012. So Ferrari still holds an advantage over us, even with basically base weight. So I'm very curious to see just how strong the regulation change is actually going to affect our rivals going into next season. And honestly, as said, it would be kind of fun to try and maybe do a go for broke season to see if I was wrong in my assessment of, well, playing it safe. Pit crew training, we're going to get that set up. We are still going to be focusing on pit crew, and honestly, for the last 10 races here, we're going to just sit a little bit on the back foot. We're not going to be focusing too much on results, as we already have gotten up to 2nd in the championship. And honestly, I think the board will be understanding. Well, maybe not fully understanding, if that makes sense. I think they would accept if we do not, perform super well for the last 10 races. And what I'm thinking here is, again, just we're going to focus on getting a amazing pit crew ready for next year. One that we can actually use to challenge the AI a little bit extra with, as currently we're about half a second. Well, not really, we're 0.3 faster than the other teams when it comes to the pit stops. And I want that to be even higher going into next year. So just to sum it up here, I know that I'm kind of babbling on a little bit longer than I should. For this season, for this last half of the season, the main focus is just going to be straight up to get as much going for us in terms of pit crew, in terms of research, and then just try and take it next year. A quiet sandboard sees us finish 5th and 9th in what was a wet race. Monza, on the other hand, offers us a 17th and 20th finish in what was a very terrible race due to us running damaged components in order to give our pit crew a little bit more training time. And as we go into Singapore, Lando is involved in an early incident and comes away with no damage after causing a safety car. Even so, Norris is unable to recover, and by the end of the race he finishes 16th, while Gasly ends up with a respectable 5th place. Sainz has a terrible start to Suzuka as he crashes out by the 7th lap, causing a virtual safety car, and just a couple of laps later, Zhou pulls the exact same trick. Apart from this, it's very quiet, and on the final lap of the race, we have Gasly involved in a 4-way fight for 5th place against Hamilton, Verstappen, and Tsunoda, and he comes out on top and finishes 5th, while Norris ends up in 9th. We've had our financial change here, and as you can see, it got voted through. The financial change in question is an increase to the cost cap back up to 139 million. It went through, which means that we'll have a little bit more money to spend next year. But, well, with our financial situation, that shouldn't really be a problem. We've got 87 in the bank. Now, the design center improvement has also ran out. As you can see, we're back down to just 4 project. We were also very unlucky as we did have a design center fire that lost us 12 days over the course of our design project. So, in reality, we had 2 events here, one great and one terrible. And honestly, we probably would have been able to start another couple of projects if we didn't have this event. But it is what it is. We'll just have to live with it. We also got some more projects done here. The side pods are back up to about 50% overall, except of drag reduction. But we'll just have to work on that later. The chassis as well. It's far behind, let's be honest. But we aren't really focusing on these right now. We're focusing on getting the underfloor, the rear wing, the front wings back up into working order. And we're almost halfway there with the front wings. We are basically halfway with the rear wing for the most part. Well, honestly, we're not really, but you get the idea. We're getting there, kind of. And for the next CFD period, we are going to be putting it into the suspension. So research-wise, I think we're still doing very, very well. But yeah, side pods, chassis, we do need to focus a little bit more on them because the lower your expertise, the more gain you can get. So the choice, I think, is going to be basically, I'm kind of thinking of trying something a little bit different next season since we're going to only be doing development for the car. We're not going to really be doing research. And what I'm thinking is that for, in particular, the side pods and the chassis, we might not do too much research right now, and instead we'll be using intense designs to, you know, develop these at the start of next season in order to get the research in on front wing and rear wing, well, front wing, rear wing, underfloor suspension. It could be an interesting thing to do, particularly also because those 2 components are fairly cheap, so it's not too expensive to, you know, use intense. But it's still not really going to be cost effective. It's just that we have very limited time. We're also going to get the suspension research done here in 5 days, and we are about to head into Qatar. A little bit of an update here as we are looking at the last 6 races. We are firmly in 2nd place still. Ferrari and Mercedes are catching up, but I think we'll be able to hold them off. It's just 6 races remaining. We're still scoring a couple of points here and there. We had a 5th place and a 9th place finish last time. Norris came back from a penalty from replacing his CRS. And as you can see, the championship is done for. We will not be able to take the Drivers' Championship at all. But at least we are winning the Pit Stop Championship, which is honestly the only thing we can be happy about right now. But yeah, let's head into Qatar, see what we can do. So Qatar offers the same thing that it usually does, punctures, and Sainz is once again the object of, well, a puncture. Same here with Zhou. They're a little bit slow. There's actually been a couple of punctures before this as well, but Russell is currently living dangerously here on the final lap, and with us currently running 6th and 7th, we do actually have some decent potential here, and Gasly here might even get Stroll potentially. But with tyres dying and Us basically being halfway through the final lap, that is a little bit doubtful. Should probably give him a little bit more ERS oomph though. But yeah, a good sprint, a good start here, and we're still somewhat competitive. So it's looking good. But yeah, unfortunately, no punctures for the top 5 here to give us some extra points. This is still a good result, and as you can see, even Verstappen here did in fact suffer a bit of a puncture, hence why he's down in 18th place. So that could potentially be good for us, but to be fair, all we need to do is just keep Mercedes and Ferrari at bay, and I'd say this is an acceptable result for that. For the race itself, it starts off with a red flag in turn 1 as Alonso hits the car in front of him, resulting in him DNFing. Ricciardo is found to be guilty and gets a 10-second penalty. There's also some slight damage to Verstappen as he ran into Alonso from behind. Apart from that though, the race is a pretty chill experience, and by the end of it we come home in 8th and 10th. A little bit disappointing concerning if you consider the sprint results, but with Verstappen out of the points, we will be happy with it, even if Leclerc did end up winning, and both Mercedes and Ferraris for that matter did beat us out here. Gasly's contract is running out this year, and as such we have decided to renew him, as there's no real upgrades really on the market. We had to go for 20 million as his new contract salary here. As you can see, he's currently getting paid 5 million a year, so he basically 4x'd his salary here, and honestly it's just what we have to do to get him to accept. He is highly rated now, he's up to 91 overall, so that shouldn't really come as a big surprise. Norris is also going up to 92 here, getting really up there on the pace stats. Needs to get that accuracy up and running as well, and then we'll be really happy. But yeah, as I mentioned here, just there's not real super good drivers here that are interested. We could pick up Russell, to be fair, but honestly, him and Gasly are pretty comparable. We can actually take a quick look here if we compare him to, say, that's the wrong driver. Russell versus Gasly. There we go. So as you can see, Gasly hasn't beat him cornering, braking, control, Russell, smoothness, adaptability. Basically, Russell has an advantage in reaction accuracy, but the cornering and braking, Russell probably has slightly better pace stats. I'm not going to lie. But honestly here, most of Russell's stats kind of go into racecraft. Overtaking, defending, and let's face it, they have the same adaptability. I kind of find hilarious that's the max one. So honestly, both of these guys would do pretty much the same in terms of performance. Russell would be probably a little bit more, you know, stable, I guess is the word. Since he has higher accuracy, you can expect this kind of same lap times. So there's more variance in lap times the lower your accuracy is, as well as reactions for that matter. So Russell will be the most stable pick, but Gasly can still perform just as good. So I'm going to do the lazy option just to renew him. And I think that is honestly fine. Now, we are going to be heading into the last 5 races here. And honestly, I am just looking forward to getting the season over with. We're going to continue doing research. And hopefully by the end of this, we'll have a really good car. We have put the safety into the suspension. That's what this research is. And honestly, I'm a little bit undecided. Do I use the last safety period on the side pods, the chassis, or do I go with a double investment into, say, the front wing for extra cornering? Because we are going to be using the first safety period on the underfloor next year, I'm pretty sure, unless we can get a massive gain from, say, do side pods now for research, and then chassis for safety next year maybe. But that is still up in the air. We'll have to see what we do. For now though, we're going to go to Texas and see what we can do at Coda. As we go to Austin, Rick is involved in yet another turn 1 incident, resulting in an early safety car. Apart from this though, the majority of the sprint was spent in a DRS train, and we end up 9th and 6th. The race itself, Gasly was involved in an incredibly weird incident with Hamilton, suffering no damage in the process but falling down to 11th, and on lap 25, Hamilton then spins and crashes, causing a virtual safety car, but as we just pitted, we were unfortunately not able to take advantage.
Now here, we're taking turn 6. Oh, and a fairly substantial crash there. And they'll have to pick themselves up after that.
In a similar vein to what we saw with Hamilton, we've had another crash here from Norris, and this one is clearly pretty bad, considering that he spun, and he's lost basically his entire car. But yeah, tires are gone. Kind of ruined here. First we had Gasly's incident that also was with Hamilton, slowing him down. Now we've had Norris crash out, and that's probably going to be us without any points for this race, as Gasly is still struggling. As you can see, it's a good 20 seconds behind Norris. But I'm worried here because that looks like a very, very hard hit. And if we take a look at the powertrain components, they're basically gone. No gearbox, no engine, barely an ERS. And these were the freshest components that Norris had, meaning that cost cap wise, we might be in a slight bit of trouble. Either that, or for the remaining 4 races after this, Norris will just be limping to the finish line, if you will. 4 components destroyed, not really a big deal. We don't really spend too much money on components. But yeah, that is a little bit of a problematic thing here, that we had Norris crash out, basically. Virtual safety car is the result, though. Can we take advantage of this in a manner that would allow Gasly to pit under virtual safety car and save time compared to what we're currently doing? So we lose about 5 seconds from our current strategy if we pit now. And how much time do we expect to save with a virtual safety car? Just 4 seconds. So if we pit now, if we pit later, it doesn't really matter. Basically what we can do here is we can go attack after the safety car ends, run standard hard tire, and still be faster. So I think the key here for us is just stay out. Probably a lot of the other teams here are going to take advantage of this virtual safety car because that would make sense, like Perez maybe, Tsunoda. But then again, we're at Austin. Tires do matter a lot here. Degradation is high. But it looks like no one is actually going to take advantage. Let's see here on the second pass, because we just need to stay out here with gas, so we need to get the most out of this. And virtual safety car is actually ending, so we're completely safe. No one changed their strategy for this, so it's not going to bite us in the ass. But Gasly here is definitely going to have to fight to get maybe a point or 2 for us. Let's see if we can actually make that happen. We're going to be pitting very soon, so we have a chance here. But honestly, at this point, as I said, we're kind of just allowing this season to run its course, and we'll come back stronger next time. So while the race has gone fairly bad, Gasly has been able to hold on here, and we are going to sail into an 8th place. Not good, not terrible, but Ocon here has been surprising. He did win the sprint, and now he's also won the race, so he's probably very happy about the fact that we replaced him. But yeah, Mercedes here are doing really well, Sainz, Russell, and that's actually kind of bad news for us, because I believe now with the standings, second place is probably not going to be ours by the end of the season. And I say that's bad news, but in reality that would actually be positive news. And if we take a look at now, we are still 3rd and 4th in the driver championship, but the other teams are getting closer. And in the constructors here, Ferrari is still 100 points, 110 points here. Same really for Mercedes, unless they have a weekend like this for their last remaining, races. We're probably not going to get caught, but honestly, I would be very happy finishing 4th this year because, more CFD time. But it looks like we are going to be safe. Now, the main concern that I have is, of course, the fact that Norris has completely destroyed his car. So we're going to have to take a quick look here and see if we can put together a new one. So powertrain-wise, as I said, he destroyed his only good engine. And with 4 races remaining, there's no way he makes it till the end with what we have left. It's basically just enough to... No, it's not even enough. It's not even enough to make it through the practices to the end of the season. But yeah, we're going to need to buy him a new engine. We are going to probably need to buy him a new ERS as well. And even a new gearbox, by the looks of it. So he'll have a completely new car going into Brazil. And in terms of the aerodynamics, do we have enough spare components to get everything set back up again? And I would believe that we do. But yeah, as you can see, even components-wise now, we are getting a little bit starved. We should be good. But yeah, I think what we're going to have to do here is, as I mentioned, buy new components. It's going to be 8.5 million. As you can see, after we buy this, we're going to have 28 million remaining. So cost cap wise, it's not really a big deal. We still actually have plenty of money. So we're going to go ahead and buy these because, as I mentioned, cost cap wise, it's not going to affect us at all. And we might actually start doing a little bit of hiring more engineers just to speed up some of the projects because, well, financially, we are looking good here. We have 4 races remaining and we have 21 million spare money, if you will. So what I think we might do here is, as I said, we will go into our staff. We're going to be increasing the engineering team to 15 souls. And we're going to go ahead here and assign them to these projects. It's going to slow things down in terms of we're not going to get, you know, the full gain, if you will. But we're going to get a higher daily gain, which is going to be more important. So all in all, because we have so much cost cap, we can actually go ahead and use all of our engineers on projects and get a little bit of extra gain before the end of the season. Only use extra engineers for research if you can have all slots running until the end of the year and still be within cost cap. If you can't, it's better to just run a single engineer. But clearly here, I could probably have done this a little bit earlier. I didn't actually believe we had that much cost cap remaining. And also here, in terms of how much we have research, it is looking to be fairly good for next year. We're about 60% here on the high speed-ish. And we could do this 4, 5, 12, 9. Still gonna need to get this one back up into, you know, working order. We're losing 70%. So I think this is a good bet. It's either that or, as I mentioned, we do say side pods. We try and get side pods back up into a acceptable shape, something like this. But honestly, I think doing the underfloor would be for the best. And maybe use CFD time on chassis or underfloor. I'm a little bit undecided on what our best options basically are, because it's kind of hard to judge. This wouldn't be a terrible idea for the chassis, so we definitely need to do a little bit more work there. But I think what we're going to do is focus on the big 4 and then just rotate chassis and suspension development for the entirety of next year. We just want to get a big boost from the rear wing, front wing, suspension, and underfloor, and then we're going to basically develop mainly the chassis and the side pods over the course of next year. And I think that's going to work out just fine as well. So we'll try that. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We'll have to make a decision afterwards. But yeah, we're definitely going to try and use engineers here to speed things up a little bit. And we've also gone ahead and started the upgrade of the Science Center to level 5. It won't be done in time for January because it was 134 days, but we'll have it for some of the later projects. And honestly, we're probably going to do a big upgrade package sometime halfway through the season maybe, because our expertise will be low enough that any part we make is going to be probably a fairly sizable upgrade. Now, I didn't actually refurbish the CFD sim. We had an event that basically forced a refurbishment, so that is why this one's fresh. But yeah, we don't need to upgrade these. They don't really have much of an advantage because the gain here, FX gained, I don't think I've actually explained this properly in a video before. A bit late to do it now, but FX gain per unit of testing. Basically, you get these boosts for your part if you use CFD time. But that is on the part they're using CFD time for. On the other hand, the expertise gained from using CFD time is way higher than these boosts. So even if you do a full CFD sim, full wind tunnel, basically, at level 5, you could potentially, you know, make a part that would be better than, you know, what the new one would be. But in general rule of thumb is these are just a waste of money because, again, very limited what you can use them for. Just an upgrade here, 60k. And the second part that you make afterwards, without these boosts, is most likely going to be better anyways. So these two just attract a bunch of cost cap. They don't really give you any sizable or, you know, advantage. So that is why we kept them at level 1. I probably have explained it earlier, but it's just such a weird way that those buildings are set up that I felt like I need to go over it again. But yeah, we have our plan. I've probably been harping on it a little bit too much here. We have gotten a new car for Norris. Let's see how these last 4 races treat us. I also do need to replace the underfloor here for Gasly. Should be good. So yeah, let's head into Mexico. Hopefully that will be a little bit easier than what happened here. Welcome to Mexico, and up until this point it's been a little bit of a bloodbath, but we do have a virtual safety car right now. Kind of in the perfect time. As you can see, Gasly has also had his own little incident with a lockup, but what we're going to do here is take advantage of this virtual safety car, get in, get onto a soft tyre, and we're probably going to do the same here for Norris, I think. He's just so far behind, he's not having a good time. He too got taken out at the back of the grid by one of the Haas's, Schumacher, I think. He got a penalty for it. But here we have Alonso, the cause of yet another virtual safety car, and yeah, he gets sent there pretty hard into the wall. That's not a good look. And we have Albon and Magnussen right behind Gasly, so we're gonna need a very, very clean pit stop here, so we do not lose time to them. 2.772. That's a bit slower than what we used to. Looks like we are beating both of them out though, maybe. So yeah, Gasly did get both, no problem. Norris is also in the pits now. But yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster here at the start. 2.4 there for Norris, a bit better of a stop. But we'll have to see what we can do in terms of making a comeback. Norris, I believe, has basically no confidence left, down to medium. And Gasly also has low confidence because, well, he had a minor incident, just minor wheel bump, nothing in particular, and then he had the lockup. But we were allowed to pit under virtual safety car, and we're going to save a lot of time against Sainz, Ocon, Russell. Basically top 6 there, top 7. So this might still work out to our advantage. And the time saved around here is a good 7 seconds. So it's not minor either. But yeah, let's see what we can do. Still a lot of racing left in this GP. To make matters worse here for the front runners, Perez has an incident at his home race against a backmarker. So, yeah, the bad luck continues here, honestly. We are currently running 10th and 15th. We are taking a little bit slow here. The tires are a little bit cold. 90 degrees is kind of what we need. We are going to suffer here probably a little bit before we pit, around lap 45. It's just how things are going to have to be. While we were running behind other cars, we were kind of safe with the temperatures. But we're going to go with another soft stint till the end. So I still think we can score some good points, but the temperatures leaves a little bit more to be desired. So unfortunately, we were unable to turn this race into anything good. Russell wins, Ocon comes second, and Sainz comes third. Meaning that Mercedes could actually catch us by the end of this, and Ocon once again has a really, really good result. So I'm wondering just how good the Aston car actually is going to be next year. We end up 12th and 13th after Norris gets Piastri at the line. Not a great result by any means of the imagination, but considering both of our drivers have been struggling, it's probably for the best. Let's see if Brazil has anything better to offer us. In the Brazilian sprint, Lando unfortunately made contacts with Hamilton while running for a podium position, and Lando also receives a penalty for it, meaning that it was our own fault. Later on, however, the other Ferrari is also involved in an incident with Sainz, with Sainz being the one penalised, and by the end we come in 10th and 19th. On the first lap of the race itself, Norris runs wide and gets himself some underfloor damage, putting him even more disadvantaged position, and with just 8 laps to go, the track dries up and we go for the early stop. Unfortunately, the double pit stop error combined with a red flag puts us outside of the points, and we end up finishing 15th and 17th in a weekend to forget. On a positive note though, it does allow Mick to get a 6th place finish for Haas. After a weekend to forget in Brazil, we now have our suspension research complete with the CFD time here. We have actually forgone drag reduction, as you can see it's down to 50%, but in exchange we got brake cooling and airflow front here up to 70%, basically the same for low and medium speed cornering, and around 58% for the high speed. The question here is, as I mentioned, what do we want to use this final CFD period on? We could of course use it on, say, the suspension again. I just want to get a little bit of a expectation, if you will, on what we can gain in terms of stats, and as you can see here, it would be a pretty sizable gain, 19.87 before we even start moving anything. And that top speed too is quite tasty to look at. Now, brake cooling at 71% is probably when we can actually start sacrificing it a little bit. So I'm wondering, if we do something like this, We could get 19 kph, we could get 23 low speed cornering, 10 medium, and a little bit of brake cooling. So honestly, this isn't a terrible idea in its own right. Now, for example, if we did this with the chassis, what can we expect? I assume we're going to get quite a huge amount of cornering because, again, this is CFD. So 30, 12, 36, that's without us not really doing anything. And honestly, I think we are probably going to do side pods, I think. Side pods probably would be the better bet here, simply because there's an additional stat, but also because it is the largest source of engine cooling that we're going to be getting going into next year. And as you can see here, we do get quite a bigger boost doing this. So I think this is what we are going to do. Unfortunately, though, we are going to be sacrificing the low or the front airflow in order to get, well, more engine cooling, more top speed, and also more high and medium speed cornering. So I think this is the bet, as I mentioned, and we'll be working on probably the chassis a lot at the start of next season. But this is actually a sizable boost, let's be perfectly honest. And we can, of course, develop the other parts next year anyway. So yeah, this is what we'll go for. We'll be using the CFD periods next year to just develop the big parts again. But this should work out just fine. We can get it done until the 1st of December. We'll just let it run normally. So our last CFD period is going to be used there on the side pods. Now, Las Vegas is probably going to be a bit of a slog. I do kind of expect that because, well, let's be perfectly honest, it is Las Vegas. And we are also running out of components here. Something fierce. Lando has been very unlucky the last couple of races. We have been having a lot of troubles with the Ferraris. And we might actually get caught here. 2 races remaining, 60 points. Honestly, I'm hoping Mercedes catches us, but let's face it, it's not very likely. The board should still be fairly happy with us, honestly. They have high confidence. They are satisfied with the races. There's some disappointments in here, to be sure. But that is just how things be sometimes. Our pit crew is currently still doing well, but as you can see here, we were tired last weekend out. We did have that double pit stop error, which was incredibly unfortunate. And if we take a look here, we did go into the realm of tide, which does boost, you know, the error chance a little bit. But we hit that 8.63% chance twice in a row. That's a bit unfortunate, to put it mildly. But we'll get a little bit of extra training in here before we go into the last month. And honestly, we have kind of kept the pit crew in good shape. That's been the goal, really. So we're looking good on that side. But yeah, let's just speed things along here. I want to see if we get any, you know, development for our drivers here. We are jumping into the final couple of months now. We are lacking parts, but I think I will gamble on them just surviving. I'll be a little bit lazy. Now, in terms of the car, as you can see, it is a piece of shit. We've fallen down to 10.9 top speed, 15 to 18th. There's barely anything we're good at, so driver skills is doing a lot of the work here for when we actually do score points. And with both Gasly and Norris getting a point of cornering, it is looking really, really good here. I should probably check this earlier, but facilities here, yeah, they have degraded. We should have refurbished these ages ago. There we go. And we're also going to go ahead here and just maximize this one for next year. Let's just get that done. There we go. We still have 50 million in the bank. I'm going to get the pit crew set up. Let's go to Las Vegas. Let's go to Abu Dhabi. Let's see what this season has to offer us in the last 2 races. So currently we are in a very good position here in Las Vegas. And we're going with a pretty basic strategy of a one stop because that's really all we can do. Now Norris has actually been able to get onto the top 5 DRS train and has been running with them, and Gas has kind of been slowing down the secondary train. Now some of the cars have started pitting, namely one car in the top train here, Leclerc, who is just 17 seconds behind us and most likely going to overtake. He's, you know, one of the forerunners of the guys that have pitted. But even Bottas is actually kind of dangerous here right now for Norris, so we are going to have to pray that Norris has the best stop in history if we want him to potentially score a podium here. Let us see if our prayers are answered or if we get punished, as both Verstappen and Hamilton are going into the pits here with us. And it is a somewhat slow stop, and I believe, yep, both of them jump out ahead of us because of pit box placement. But at least we do come out ahead of Sainz and Bottas, and hopefully we can still stay with the top DRS train here. Gasly comes out in 13th position, clean stop there. But yeah, it's just a shame. As you can see, having an early pit box is definitely a little bit of an advantage, because I'm pretty sure our pit stop was faster than the other cars. We'll have a look at that after the race. But yeah, that's also one of the additions that's going to come in 24. Pit boxes are going to change depending on where you finished the season before. So that is hopefully going to solve a little bit of that problematic. But yeah, Gasly here should have enough to kind of start launching a little bit of attack. Everyone is on the same tire. Ocon has worn it down, Sainz has worn it down, so I still think we have a bit of a chance here, but the DRS train is probably going to be a top 5 finish, something like that. Gas is going to be fighting for the last couple of points. Let's see where we end up. To spice things up here, we now have a safety car with just 10 laps ago or so? 8 laps ago. And that is making things a little bit spicy here, because you can now do a pit stop with 15 seconds. And let's say it's probably just going to be 5 laps or so racing. But if we take a look at the compound performance here, soft versus hard is half a second. And that is a fresh hard versus a fresh soft. So as you can imagine, pitting for a soft here might work out to our advantage, and I'm very tempted to do so. We are probably going to end up losing out on some positions, but if we have 5 laps, that's going to be more than enough. Well, 4 laps even. I'm willing to gamble here. Should be enough to make a huge difference, because we can turn risk up, we can be very aggressive, we should have energy, we should have fuel, and we should be able to just launch a straight up attack, as Magnussen has found the wall. So unfortunately in Norris, apparently I gave him the order a bit too late. I think he has missed the entrance. He has. Sorry for the burp, by the way. Gasly, on the other hand, is going to gamble. And
keep your delta as close to 0 as possible.
He is not the only one. Russell and Piastri is coming in alongside.
Straight onto,
so I'm very curious what's going to happen here. Safety car has actually passed, so Norris can pit, which means that we're probably not going to get too many laps here. But Gasly, after pitting, comes out in 11th, which is huge. And he will have fresh tires. And I'm curious how many others are going to pit. Rick is the only one that kind of stayed out after Gasly, so let us see here. Norris is pitting. Is anyone else going to take the opportunity? He comes out in 8th, so he doesn't actually lose out anything either. That's actually kind of huge. So Norris now on fresh tires. Leclerc has opted to do the same thing. But we now have 6 cars ahead of us that we can potentially just straight up shoot through once this gets restarted. So let us get everything prepped for both of our boys, so I don't have to pay attention once it begins again. But yeah, we're just going to go full aggressive. There's no problem with just setting this up in the safety car, because they're limited on, you know, how hard they can drive. But we'll have to see. I would assume safety car comes in this or next lap. And I'm going to be willing here to do something just a tad risky. Safety car is coming in. Can we do an 8th to 2nd here maybe? Because let's face it, we're not catching Leclerc. He has cars. There's some cars between us. He has fresh set of softs, and he's going to be fairly quick. The question just here is just how much quicker are we going to be than our, you know, opponents. And I would wager quite quick as we get 1 on the first straight. Same for Gasly. Overtake on overtake. And I think we have another here incoming immediately. 2 overtakes potentially. Nah, couldn't get it done completely. Almost 2 overtakes in the first couple of corners. So that kind of tells you already that we are in a good position to be aggressive. And on the straight here, do we have enough top speed to get the Aston? Not really. But once DRS unlocks here, I think that would be a no-brainer. 7th now for Norris. Gasly still in 10th. But yeah, we should be able to get a little bit more here. Gasly unfortunately didn't wreck his car, so he has some somewhat worn components, which isn't helping him. But yeah, if he too had a fresh car, could probably have been able to fight for a little bit more. 3 laps to go now. Norris is still trying. I'm going to put him to neutral here as he makes his way up into 6th ahead of Sainz.
So here we are following the Alpine.
To get it on the corner onto the main straight. Or, sorry, the long straight, if you will. I think that was before that. But yeah, that is Norris now up into 6th place. And still... Yeah, I can understand that, Gasly. Your components are about to break. Can we get Paris here? Probably not. Oh, that's an aggressive weave. That does pay off. 2 laps to go, 4 cars. Leclerc is leading, which is going to allow the cars that are, you know, behind to get a little bit of extra DRS push, or pull, if you will. As we now go up against Bottas. Did Bottas come... Where did Bottas come from? Did I just not notice him? But yeah, Gasly is up into 8th place here. Probably not going to be able to close down Perez. And we should maybe do the same move we did last time. No, couldn't get it done. Gonna go deploy here. We are about to head on to probably the final chance. It's going to be this one. Let's see here what we can do. Can we snatch 3rd place from Hamilton, who's actually outside of DRS? This should just be a, you know, a pretty easy pass. And remember, this is basically one of the worst cars in the grid. And we are capable of scoring podiums with it. Because of mostly fresh components here for Norris. So that is huge. Gasly... It's pretty close here, let's be honest. I didn't think he would catch up this much. Honestly, though, he wasn't full everything. I don't think he could have done better. But we'll take a podium here. And we'll take an 8th place. It's a good place really to... It's at least a little bit of a crowning achievement for the end of the season. 16 points gained here. Leclerc wins, Verstappen 2nd. And with this, we might still have a little bit of a fight in the final race. But Verstappen most likely going to take the title. And in the Constructors, we are now safe from Mercedes. We're going to finish 2nd, which is kind of sad, honestly. Because, again, I want the extra safety time. And as I mentioned here, if we take a look at the pit stop report, 2743, and that is faster than Verstappen's fastest pit stop. So if you consider that, with the fact that Verstappen, when he pitted, it was one of these. I'm not sure if it was Verstappen or if it was Leclerc, but when we pitted at the same time as the Red Bull, we had a faster stop, but we came out behind them simply due to the fact that, well, they were in the pit lane. We spent less time than them theoretically, but they still got out ahead of us, which is frustrating to say the least. But yeah, pit stop again looks good. The 10th quickest stop is 3.3 seconds. 2.8, 2.9 here from the Red Bulls, 3.1. So pit stop advantage should be locked in for next year for sure. But yeah, with that said, let's just go to Abu Dhabi, finish off the season, take a look at how our research is looking like. And that will be it for today. And tomorrow we'll get started on the final season of this challenge. In Abu Dhabi, we start out with a bit of an incident here for Gasly. As he just gets slightly tagged by the Aston Martin. Love to see it was the fault though. Maybe turn in a little bit too aggressive. But it did put him down to 17th place here, as you can see. So from the points to the back of the grid. Ocon this time. Gives him a little bit of nudge. Thank you from last time. With a minor damage to front wing. And a penalty. Gasly being a little bit sour maybe. That Ocon's been winning. While he hasn't. Well, we'll just have to take that as it is. But yeah, Norris is running currently very high up here. We are pushing before the first pit stop. And hopefully we can make something out of this race still. After our final pit stop here, Norris is running in 8th, and he did have a bit of a slow stop, but we will have a little bit of a tire advantage against the cars in front of us, but we're probably a little bit too far behind here to have any hopes of a podium. Perez is going to have to pit, Stroll's going to have to pit, Russell's going to have to pit, so in theory, we could potentially get up there, but Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton should have the top 3 places kind of settled here. Gasly is trying his bestest back here, but unfortunately due to the incident, most likely just isn't going to be able to make anything happen as he's about to get lapped.
Copy.
We now have a virtual safety car, which is causing us some problems as it happened just as we were about to start attacking, so this season has not been good on us in terms of when things have been happening. Tsunoda there, spins out in the last corner, hits the backside of his car into the wall. And as mentioned, with 8 laps to go here, we were about to start hunting down the cars in front. But that is not going to happen now. We are, however, going to go full risk here. There's no reason not to. Even if we destroy the car, it won't actually affect us financially or mentally, honestly. As Russell takes the advantage to pit, but that is definitely a slower stop. And the question now becomes for Norris, can we hunt down Bottas before the end of this, with him actually doing some pretty good stuff here for the Alfa Romeo. Honestly, I didn't expect him to be this high up, and he has had a lot of good performances, honestly. Already this lap, we've taken out, I believe, 1.5 seconds out of his time. 2.5 seconds almost. Let's see if we can replicate that. We're going to have to with just 5 laps remaining if we want to catch up. And looking at this, another 2 seconds that lap, we might catch him before the end. So let's see if we can snatch that 4th place away from him now that we don't have the benefit of pushing ERS. So we ended up 50th. We could not chase down Bottas without the help from energy, and Bottas started pushing himself, so that did not help. 1-2 from Red Bull, Hamilton 3rd, Bottas 4th, Perez 6th, and with that we are 2nd in the Constructors this year. 17th from Gasly, very disappointing, honestly, and he's had a tough season. Maybe to the point where I almost regret switching out Ocon rather than Gasly. But I think he'll be making a comeback next year. Let's be perfectly honest here. We've done a lot of research. It is looking good. And in the Drivers' Championship then, Lando ends up being 3rd behind the Red Bull drivers. And Gasly down in 6th. Constructors, we do end up, as mentioned, 2nd. Ferrari overtakes Mercedes in this final race. And Alfa Romeo is up into 6th here with points scored mainly, I believe, or only, for the most part, by Bottas. 68 versus 2. Only driver without points, Giovinazzi. Schumacher did get some points there, particularly that 6th place. So that has been really, really helpful for him. But yeah, pit stop wise, again, it looks very promising for next year that we're going to have a pretty sizable pit stop advantage. Unfortunately here for Norris too, he did have a bit of a slower stop, which actually stole 4th from him potentially here. But it's not really a big deal because of the fact that, well, we kind of had everything sorted. Car parts development is locked. We are still going to be doing a little bit more research, but honestly, we're just going to jump now till the end of the season, and then I'll do a quick summary of the research that we have done. And we have hit the end of year review. So 1st place here for Alpine in the pit stop awards. Not anything else. Our final research has also concluded. We end up 3rd in championship, 3rd and 6th, 2nd. It's honestly a good season, all things considered. But we'll have to see now if next year actually does give us what we have been hoping for. We can actually increase the construction speed here of our weather center. Yeah, I'm not going to pay $120,000 to make it finish 3 days faster. That is not happening. Regulation changes here. We did get the major technical. We're going to get some more financial capabilities next year. But let's be honest, I probably should have handled the cost cap a little bit better. We still have 12 million to spare. And I do want to apologize. I've not been completely like 100% here while recording, I feel like. I just had a couple of things that have been concerning me that I've had to deal with on the side while trying to get this done. But it's been sorted out now. Hopefully tomorrow we'll be back to a more normalized, or hopefully a little bit better part, as we will be starting on the final season. The plan is to get it done hopefully before the end of the weekend, then have a day or so, maybe a couple of days off before 24 releases. I will be streaming on release day. I will have to wait for the game to release like everyone else, unfortunately. But yeah, it is what it is. We can all play together come the 23rd. But yeah, we're just going to quickly have a look at research. But before that, I'm going to need to reload the save so we get updated numbers. And here we are with the rules and regulations. Now, by reloading this save, we should get updated numbers on what we can expect. And for the suspension here, we're going to lose, well, a decent chunk, but I'd say we've done a good job here of researching and getting most of it back. Of course, a lot of this is going to suck in terms of what we're losing, but let's face it, as I mentioned, the AI should suffer more than us. The underfloor, we've done wonderful work on 2, lose about, well, covered about half of the losses, same as the suspension. Side pods here, which we invested CFD time in, is actually looking fairly decent. The airflow front is a little bit lacking, but same, we cut our losses by about half. Rear wing, it's probably one of the better pieces here, particularly the high-speed cornering. Drag reduction DRS delta. Maybe invest a little bit too much time in this one compared to some of the other things. Front wing, probably should have had a little bit more work, honestly, but it looks kind of same as rear wing. We could probably have done a little bit less. But that should mean that we have a very dominant car next year. And as you can see, what I suffer the most is the chassis. So what I'm thinking is we do CFD time for the underfloor first, but maybe we do second, third, maybe even fourth if we're lazy on the chassis, or we just have a slot that we permanently use to get chassis and side pod up to order next season. But we'll worry about that next time around when we start our 2026 season. For now, I just want to thank you so much for watching, for playing, well, not really playing, for watching these videos for the past year, and hopefully 24 will be just as good. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.